One of the standout results before the international break was Sevilla's 4-1 win over Barcelona. Sevilla hadn't beaten Barca in the league in 10 years, and their manager, Matias Almeyda, had mentioned in an interview about the need to play aggressively rather than just sitting back and defending. Clips of his team talks before and during the game illustrated his plan to play on the front foot and take the game to their opponents. Sevilla have already been one of the teams that pressed the most in the league this season, being second in PPDA, or passes per defensive action, essentially meaning they don't allow the opposition to play many passes before they do something defensively. They kept that approach with Barcelona, and it secured a famous victory, suffocating Barca with an aggressive man-to-man press to deny them control of the game, while also having a clear plan in possession to exploit space down Barca's right side and behind their high line. In the first 35 minutes, they stormed into a 2-0 lead, with the visitors barely able to get out of their own half, let alone create chances to score goals, as shown by the expected goals trend in the initial stages of the match, with Barca barely able to muster a shot until after Sevilla had already gone 2-0 up. But what exactly did Almeida do tactically to gain these advantages and secure Sevilla's first win over Barca since 2015? Both teams set up in a base 4-2-3-1 formation, yet despite Barca's better players, Sevilla won the matchups all over the pitch, thanks to a rarely seen strict man-marking approach in midfield in all phases of Barca's build-up, with the rest of the team also then jumping to a man-to-man press when Barca were building from their defensive third, with Sanchez the right winger pressing out in onto the left centre-back, and Carmona the right back jumping to Barca's left back. Barca simply couldn't find a way to win their individual battles to beat this man-to-man marking and were frequently forced to play longer. When Sevilla couldn't commit to fully press high and were forced a bit deeper, Sanchez dropped back to follow the left back and leave one of Barca's centre-backs free, as we commonly see in this phase. But what really stood out in Sevilla's approach was that their midfield kept man-marking, no matter where they were on the pitch. And even when De Jong tried dropping between the centre-backs, as we're seeing more often this season as a solution against man-marking teams, unusually Sal continued to follow De Jong wherever he went, even going past the striker. So Pedri and De Jong struggled to get on the ball, and although one centre-back was free, as is common when defending in the middle third, Sevilla's strict man-marking behind meant that any forward passes were immediately pressed and the receiver couldn't find a nearby free player to release the ball to. Of course, Pedri and De Jong loved dropping deep to start dribbles, and were once or twice able to free themselves to do so, but Sevilla did an excellent job of closing them down as they went through. With the midfielders unable to lose their man, and no combinations working to try and dynamically beat the press, Barca's progression was now entirely reliant on the free centre-back trying to dribble into midfield, and that's exactly what Sevilla wanted. Despite their best efforts, Araujo and Kabasi simply didn't have the dribbling quality to beat the whole team, nor play the right pass after attracting pressure. It's evident from the number of passes that Barca made in the first 40 minutes, up until around Sevilla's second goal, that they couldn't get their midfield into the game properly, let alone the forwards, with even such a crucial second phase player like De Jong barely reaching double figures in passes. They simply had no way of getting the ball up the pitch. But it wasn't enough to simply stop Barca. Sevilla also had to threaten them defensively to win the game, and Almeida had a plan to specifically target one aspect of Barca's out-of-possession setup. Barca tried to press high in the same way Sevilla did, with the right winger pressing inside and the right back jumping behind him, but Sevilla had clearly made a plan to exploit the space behind Koundé stepping forward. The result was Sevilla pumping the ball towards their left wing and easily getting up the pitch, and then trying to find runners inside, with the forward adopting the now common initially offside position to counteract Barca's high line. Barca are set up here to press high, with Rashford inside ready to press the left centre-back, and behind him Koundé is stepping up to join the press to mark the free left-back. However, the keeper immediately looks to play over Koundé into the space behind. Vargas could play Romero inside here, and did so on other occasions, but this time he keeps the ball and Sevilla win a throw-in, which then leads to a penalty being given away by Araujo. Sanchez scored against his former side to put Sevilla 1-0 up, but the move started all the way back from Sevilla's goalkeeper, targeting the space behind Koundé. You can see the intentions even clearer here, with Koundé eager to set to the left back even in the mid-block, and Marcal then immediately looks for Vargas in behind, giving Sevilla a clear recipe for getting up the pitch and into the final third. For the second goal, Sevilla win the ball off Koundé in midfield and attack the same space down the left side. Romero, who initially ran offside while waiting for play to develop down the wings, is now ahead of Barca centre-backs and scores from a high-quality chance. Sevilla's intentions can clearly be seen by their pass map, which highlights their focus on developing play down their left side, and the vast majority of their attacking half touches in the first 40 minutes came in that area. Carrying out such an intense game plan, man-marking out of possession and playing so direct in possession, is mentally and physically exhausting, and Sevilla did have momentary lapses in concentration. Here, Sau is visibly demonstrating it his teammates, as no one's followed De Jong dropping deep. While at the back, Carmona, the right back, doesn't get goal side of Rashford when Azpilicueta jumps up to follow the striker, meaning Rashford can run in behind and have a clear chance to score. Nevertheless, their hard work had almost earned them a 2-0 lead at half-time, when another questionable decision let them down, with right-back Carmona slowly drifting forward after the team had won the ball in their own half. Agume dwelled on the ball instead of simply clearing it, despite the half being over, and when he was tackled, Carmona was out of position, leaving Rashford free to score. Sevilla tried to keep up a similar approach in the second half, determined by their manager's words not to drop back and invite pressure. Still pressing high with Sanchez and Carmona, and the midfield still man-marking, even if they end up all on the same side of the pitch. They naturally couldn't maintain the same level of high pressing throughout, but still managed to man-mark in midfield even in the mid-block. But Hansi Flick also made a few adjustments which helped Barca gain back control, switching Rashford to the left wing earlier in the first half, and then adjusting their press slightly, with Lewandowski staying deeper to allow De Jong to provide more cover at the back, around the right centre-back for Sevilla's long ball to the left, which more or less completely took away Sevilla's attacking threat in the second half. Barca also made it to the final third more, with Kabasi continuing to drive forward as the free man and better passing from the back to bypass the marked midfield, with Garcia finding Lewandowski here. They get a bit of fortune with Lewandowski's flick to find the runner in behind, but it does lead to another good chance. Sevilla also naturally tired, and the substitutes did drop the level a little, and Nyanza gave away a penalty shortly after coming on, momentarily losing his marker, a big problem when defending with man marking, and then fouling his man upon trying to recover. Lewandowski fortunately put his penalty wide, but the expected goals trend shows that Barca did gradually get back into the game in the second half as Sevilla couldn't sustain their first half intensity. It wasn't as one-sided as the final scoreline suggests, as Sevilla scored 2 late goals on the counter, but Almeyda's tactics gave them a fantastic platform and the best chance of winning against a far superior opponent. They had a clear tactical advantage in the first half and really should have been 2 up at half-time. So although Barca managed to claw their way back in the second half, the damage was already done, and their first half dominance probably deserved a first league victory over Barcelona in a decade.